if we have the power to make it worse, we have the power to make it better, right?
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. And today we speak to multiple world record holder who came to LA in 1986 as a political refugee from Poland. An accomplished athlete, he subsequently won 5 world weightlifting championships. In 2000, Jerzy and his wife founded the UCLA's weightlifting team, becoming its head coaches. More recently, they have turned their attention to help thousands of people looking to turn back the clock and become more youthful. Housewives, physicians, celebrities and athletes have all transformed their mind and body through the Happy Body program. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this week's podcast with Mr. Jerzy Gregorek. Thank you very much for joining me. I am disappointed that I'm not actually able to do this face-to-face, because last time I came, I had experience of your wife's cooking, and that's never left me.
It was absolutely fun. You know, cooking is a quite interesting activity that you can really, meditate while you cook if you really connect to what you do.
Really?
Yeah, really. When you focus on really cooking, like, when you peel potatoes or, onion, and then you cut it, and then when you focus on all of it, you can be completely mindful in what you do, and when you are, you can it can turn into meditation. So the whole thing is how to connect to what you do so deeply that takes away all the thought process away. I think that sometimes mothers, they clean the house when they get irritated, so they go into the cleaning. But the cleaning really takes them, away from thinking, and that is the way how they vent. That's the way how they calm themselves down. That's the way how they return to, some kind of sanity and positive way of thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I never thought about that.
It's funny you should say that. Like years ago, and I was only thinking about it this week, but years ago. I'm going back a long time. People used to clean their cars themselves. And I had this old beaten up car. And as much as I didn't like cleaning it, and I didn't do it a lot, when I got into it, I used to really enjoy it, and polishing it. And I used to do all the hoovering. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it very often, but it made me think, because we're in this situation at the moment where the cleaners of the cars are all closed down. And I thought, should I do it myself? And what you've just said there about going into this sort of, meditative state where you're not thinking about anything else, you're just focused on, making something look nice is, there's probably a lot of sense in that.
It's a power of the present moment. When you really enter the present moment, I think that, women that clean the house and then they see things that need to be cleaned and how they clean them. And it's a challenge in a way, but also it's integrity in doing that thing. And that takes over everything else, override, everything else. And I think that we can get that whether we are, plumbers or locksmiths or whatever it is, right? I was a little bit training to be a locksmith in Poland. So I remember when I work in metal, and then how I built a lock. And how that, when you really do that, and you completely forget about everything else. It takes completely you in 100%. You become 100% mindful and 100%, in it. But, it can be that if you start thinking about something else, like you are bored, of what you do, you're not really connected to it, then it can become really hard to pass, the time and finish the work and something like that. It could be a really big problem for people when they are not they are not mindful in what they do.
Yeah, I guess nowadays we don't do a lot of that type of work. Like we don't make things like we used to. My job years ago, I used to make things, and we don't make stuff, and we don't clean things, and we don't cook a lot. In general, and I suppose do you think that's a part of our lives that we probably need to think about how, connecting back to some of those things that you did, you feel as though you should pay someone else to do, but maybe those are the things that we should do ourselves because it just, kind of connects us with ourselves a bit more.
Everybody has a job, right? Let's say, talk about the receptionist, right? And she can be really behind the counter, and she is a receptionist, let's say, or for dentist. And then she comes to work, and then she is a receptionist, right? And then there are, people calling, and then they try to get appointment and schedule and who and where and what. And then the place is also a certain way. And this receptionist can really connect to the place, right? To make the place a little bit better, maybe paint the walls, or maybe buy new furniture, make it more pleasant, be kind to the people, be completely in it, right? And then if she's in it, the time can fly, right? But if she thinks about, looks all the time at the clock and then tries to really, like pass the time to go to the lunch and so on, it will be really hard for her to live that way of life, to work that way. But if she's mindful in what she is and what she's supposed to do that, then her time can pass very fast, and she can be also adding to the value of the place. Yeah, if she focuses on really be kind to people that call, be patient with them. If she focuses on, making the place a little bit more pleasant, then people will like it, and people will bring other people, and dentists will like it, and then they will give her a raise, right? And they will appreciate that. So everything is kind of, when goodness happens, the goodness spreads somewhere else as well. And then also the time passes very fast, and we evolve, we get better because of it.
So that's brought up an interesting thought in my mind, particularly with what's going on in the world today. And I'll be interested in your views on this, Jerzy. But if you look at just recently looking at social media in terms of the conversations that are going on with the coronavirus, people are in, there's multiple views. People are divided in terms of what it means and what they should do. But one of the things that seems to be obvious, if you look at some of the behaviors that are happening, where people are going out and panic buying toilet roll and doing all kinds of crazy things that don't necessarily make a lot of logical sense. But it seems as though probably at the moment, maybe we're not mindful, we're more fearful. And as a result, we're probably reacting in strange ways because of that fear. And I guess, what you're saying is about doing that cooking maybe kind of makes you a little bit more conscious of what you're doing. So I guess my question is, what's your thoughts about the mindset of people at the moment? And do you think that there's things that we all probably need to do to kind of connect us with, make more sort of sensible, logical decisions about our lives and what's happening and how to deal with a lot of information or, a lot of uncertainty in our lives?
I deal, with the present moment. So, and facts. So, what I really need to know that only that the virus is dead, and then we should be quarantined, and then we should really care so we don't expose ourselves to other people and don't contribute to make it worse. And that's all news for me. Everything else is entertainment. Talking about it is completely useless for me. I don't listen to that. For me, only is the situation I am in. It means I am in the situation. My present moment is that my clients are not coming to my place. So I created the gyms in their places, and they work out in their places, and I have the video conferences with them. As well, I found a way to talk to the people, the happy body people in the world, and I created this at noon 1 hour, talk that I talk to anybody that is the happy body, or anybody would like to have it, anybody that is in need that, and I have constant connections with people in the world. to create calmness, to create simple ways of dealing with irritation, like breathing patterns in the happy body. So I focus on what to do to get better or to deal with irritants instead of the fear. I don't have the kind of fears. I've never had them. So I don't focus on being scared of something. So but I will do everything in order not to, of course, contribute myself to making things worse for myself or somebody else.
Mm. Do you think that's a common thing for a lot of people though? Like, I know you're a bit of an exception in a number of different ways, Jerzy, but do you think in a lot of cases that people you work with do slip into that state where they're probably not in the present moment and they are fearful about maybe what if this happened, what if that happened, and how do you one is that what you see happening, and then two, if that is the case, what do you find are some of the ways that can kind of help prevent that sort of that non I guess supportive mindset?
First, I focus on facts. The facts are important. What is it, and what is the situation we're in? Of course, the situation is isolation where we don't like it. Then what do we do with it so we don't complain, we don't blame anybody for it, but we actually help ourselves with living the life within, and how we adapt ourselves to not to let ourselves to fall into negativity. So there is a certain breathing patterns in the happy body that today is very useful. And I tell people when, for example, when they go to buy things and there is a big line, and they could be negative about that, and it can be have this physical responses that physical responses like irritant. So I tell them to breathe, like inhale, hold for about 5-6 seconds, like the happy body is, and then exhale. Then inhale again, hold, exhale, and keep breathing that way until that heartbeat goes down. And actually, you develop the perspective. You see that there is a line, that we all in it. We develop this compassion because of calmness. So calmness is the most important factor, and controlling yourself, and then developing this delayed gratification. I've heard that I talked about this last time. Today is really so important that we have patience, we deal with irritations, we control ourselves, we override impulses that make us, irritant, or it could be angry or negative. So more focus on the present moment. What is the present moment? And in the present moment, how do we really behave in the present moment? And try to see yourself from the perspective how you are in this present moment, what kind of human being you are, and think about that, who you are. You want to be calm, and you want to contribute to the goodness of the world, or you want to be negative and angry and create anxiety and chaos. So I focus on exposing the situation, and also the how to calm ourselves, how to control ourselves as a good thing. So it's just a virus, right? So it is here, and it is really a horrible thing, but it will pass, and it will we will learn how to control it, and like we did with things before, and it would just need that time to how to deal with it. And it looks like isolation is the way to deal with it, and it is difficult, but also it is necessary. It is necessary for us to it's a test for us to how we are in it. It's opportunity to, to practice meditation, to practice calmness, to practice goodness, virtues, and so on.
You use the word controlled, and I suppose at the moment many of us feel as though there's no, you're losing control in your life. Probably people have, with their jobs, with their companies, with their freedom and their lifestyle. Do you think that focusing on that present moment is that where people have that sort of control in their lives of their own state? Is that what you mean by that? Just having, being able to have personal control over something, even though if everything else is very uncertain.
If you focus on the present moment without really anxiety about the future, you have the capability of helping yourself to think and to adapt to, how to deal with the situation you found yourself in. So you have a chance to create something, to adapt, to deal with, what you really need to do in this situation. Do you need to take loans? Do you need to call somebody for an advice? So you make yourself constructive without, the anxiety in the brain. Because once the anxiety hits in, then you will have the fear of the future, and then you will only think about that, but that will take you away from the present moment, that actually you can do certain things. You can adapt to, how to deal with the present moment. There are ways of making the present moment working for you. It means like you can find in that place how to make things better. It doesn't mean that the things are really great. No, I'm saying about the present moment is already there. We are all already in, and there is no the negativity and anger is never productive in life. So the calmness is always productive. The goodness is productive. When we calm ourselves down, we can see maybe what we can do and how we can, work with that present situation to come out of it, and how to gap that, that time between, in a year what will happen and now, how to really deal with it, but you have to deal on a daily basis and not really on, think about the future. You have to really think about now, who you are now, how you deal with the situation, and only focus on that.
Is it a bit like a habit or a muscle that you develop? I know when this first started and you kind of heard about what was happening and you saw these businesses closing, and certainly in our situation, lots of our customers are closing, and you suddenly think, well, where's the money going to come from? And you've got people and bills and overheads, and you wake up in the middle of the night at 2:00 and suddenly it hits you, and you kind of get the cold sweats and that sort of stuff. And I've certainly managed to get over that now. But how do you, what I guess first thing is, is it a habit that you can get better at it, and how do you deal with things when suddenly, like in the middle of the night or whenever you do get that sort of that fear, that anxiety that's not good, but suddenly has just popped into your head and keeps you up at night?
I think that the first we have to have a feeling, strong feeling that we will be okay. That we have to return always to that feeling that that's not the end of the world, and we will be okay. We are really good people. We are hard-working people, and we will be okay. We'll come out of it. You have to have the strong feeling that you will be okay.
Where do you get that from, though? Where does that, like, you've obviously been doing it for years, but where do you get that strong feeling? Do you have to kind of, do you repeat it in your head, like, mantras, or what?
Right.
Where do you get that?
You have to have that strong belief that, look at the world. The world, the United States is a great place. It's not like it happens to us that we are going to be forgotten. You see that the government is working that to help us to work with it, and then how much we really need also has to be examined. When I came to this country, I had only $600 and I didn't know anybody, but I had the feeling that I will be okay. Yeah, it's not really. I work hard. I'm really hard labor worker, and I will work hard. And if I work hard, I will live and I will have a good life, because that is has to happen somehow, right? So you have to have that belief that it will be okay. You will find your way. And then we spent $77 in a whole month on food. We found a way how to cook food that would be good and healthy and very, very cheap, right? And we found a place for this little place in Burbank that it was for $300. And we found it. It's not the end of the world. We foreclosed our house in 96. We had a house for 7 years, and we bought the house in 89 when it was really the highest. Okay. And we lost it after 7 years. We did everything to keep it, but we were just not able to keep it. So, but that doesn't mean that it's a horrible thing. It's just the thing. It's a fact, and you move on. You move on to the next one, and you can have a lot of more power actually when you release something that is like backpack on you that you don't want, right? It was this house that was draining us, and then when we released that house, we turned ourselves into this robust way to rebuild our life. And then during this 96, 97, we went to study creative writing, and then I graduated in 98 with MFA in creative writing. I gave myself to do my graduation. I borrowed money and did that. I started UCLA weightlifting team during this year, in 99. And we competed, we were in, Scotland, we were in Sydney, we just like you focus on rebuilding yourself. And that's it. That's what really you need to do. It doesn't matter what happened. The past is perfect. If I knew better in the past, I would do better, but I didn't. I accept the fact 100% that the past is perfect for me. There's nothing to do about that. So I go into my present and I rebuild better life in it. If I get hurt, I got hurt already. I cannot really do anything about it. I move myself toward the present where I can actually rebuild something, make myself better. And that's the only focus that we need.
Mm. Mm. Do you think some of that is being attached to other things from your past? Like since we last spoke, I'd done a good job in the beginning after we met, but probably it's dropped away a bit. But I certainly understand what you mean about focusing on the present moment, which I guess separates you from what's happened in the past. But do you think that some of that fear comes from an attachment to something in the past, like you say, with this backpack that you're holding on, that means that you're kind of not really in the present, and that you're being concerned about something that you may lose, that's not been lost yet, even possibly?
Well, we have loss aversion, right? To lose things, and then we grieve, right? And we go through this process of grieving that we lost something, but that grieving is really something that people can have it for a day, people can have it for a month, and people can have for a year, right? Or never recover from it, right? Certain people will never recover after certain, traumas in life, right? But so we have different time to restore ourselves. So when you focus on present and you have this capabilities of dealing with the past that happen and with yourself, you have to release yourself. I release myself the way that I have this saying: if I knew better, I would. I didn't know better. When I understood with my father the same thing. When I understood that, I released my father. But I understood that it is not really something that magical. It's just simple understanding. When it gets into you, of course, how it comes to us, it can come after years of studying poetry or years of studying philosophy or something, right? But I got it one day with my father, that I comprehended the idea that he was a horrible man, but he didn't know better, and I got it. That if he knew better, he wouldn't be horrible man, and he was stuck in being horrible man. And and I cannot really judge that. There is just not really up to me to really do anything. I released, that idea. I experienced that, and I experienced, a lot of with myself. I can complain and I can agree with a lot of things in my life today, but I choose not to. It's such an easy choice, right? The hard choice is to to get into your present moment and to accept where you are and start building. But also, it's a sane moment. It's a good thing to do, because you can save your family that way. You can save yourself that way, and you are responsible for that anyway. To get into the present moment and start rebuilding there, and that's all you got. But if you miss that, you can miss the possibility for rebuilding. You can miss, and it will get worse. It can get worse, the whole thing. It's not like it can get better by itself. It can get worse and worse and worse if you don't do that. And it happens, right? It happens to people that they get worse. They get worse because they lose control. They lose even more control. What happens now, all right? And somebody will start drinking alcohol, right? Instead of doing something, studying something, adapting, being engaged with his bosses and here and there, and then create some kind of ideas, right? Talk to other people about the business, what kind of business and what we are going to do now. Get engaged in how to help the company, how to make things better. Read something, talk to, create something. That's where progress is. And I am only on the progress. I'm not really. If there is no progress, I get irritated. That's what I get irritated. I have to have progress, no matter what it is. But I have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think you can happily deal with things getting worse? So you've been through a lot in your life, I know. But can you be or have you been in a space where you're happily dealing with things getting worse as you're working on trying to get them better?
You mean happily? You said.
Yeah, happily. Can you be, so assuming life's a roller coaster and you're on the way down, and as you just said a moment ago, it could get worse, but as you're on that roller coaster, in your experience, can you happily be going down the roller coaster as it's getting worse, and whilst you're planning on the time for it to come up?
When we lose ourselves in and it's always ugly. It's not really a good thing. When we lose our control, it's ugly. It's not really happy. Once we start drinking, 2 glasses in the evening of wine, whatever it is, it is okay maybe. But when we started drinking 3 and 4, it is not okay. We are losing, and it's always ugly. It's, when getting worse is it's a very sad thing, and losing control is a very sad thing. It destroys families. It's never really happy. No, that thing is never happy. I was an alcoholic. That's not really happy. When the goodness slip away from your life, and you fall into anything that makes you worse over time, it's a horrible thing. It's a very sad thing. It's always sad. And how to come out if you are in the time zone that you can really comprehend what happens to you, and you accept what happens, and you, let's say, hear sane voice like we are talking about, you could really get out of negative and see it. Okay, you say, well, yeah, I got it, I better go and do things. But there are situations that we are far into the darkness, and we really need help outside. And once we need help outside, it's too late for us to come out of it. So we really need help. And if we have some kind of thinking, we should really ask for it, ask for help. You should really call somewhere or talk to somebody, say, I need help. Because, there is another place deeper than that you don't ask for help at all, and you don't even know that you need help. You are in complete darkness. And that's where the suicide is, and that's where, end is, of course.
With you spoke about alcohol. I know at the moment I was reading that people are staying in, they're drinking a lot more, they're eating all kind of bad foods, and I'm sure there's consequences there. But what's that limit with alcohol's quite social, and you drink it and you kind of wind down, and however people do that. But what is there a line between just having a glass of wine? I know we've talked about this slightly before with yourself, but having a glass of wine, and then that wine turning into something which is is no longer helpful to you, and it's taking you down a wrong path. And how do you know when that's actually happening to you?
Well, we have a certain strength of dealing with life on a daily basis. It's like this energy or a battery, or the storage of energy that is good and is powerful and strong to override any kind of badness that could happen to you. And when we go through life, we use this, and at the end of the day, we have the list of it, right? So you don't have this energy to override when somebody irritates you. So you could really say something wrong. And then when you have a drink, it becomes worse. And then you have two drinks, and we get more tired, and we have less energy for goodness, less energy to be calm, less energy to override all these impulses. And the worst crimes committed in drinking in bars, between around 1 and 3 a.m. So when we are the most tired, exhausted, and then drinking also makes us worse. We have less self-control. It's so, okay, how many, when I go and, to a party or somewhere, I have one drink, and that drink, I use delay gratification with it. I use one drink for 2 hours, and I have one drink, and 2 hours have to pass. I look at the clock, and then so it's my plan. I have a plan. I have a strategy. Without the strategy, I could have 3 drinks within 10 minutes, right? So I have a strategy, and I know that strategy is a good thing. And my belief is behind this. So first you would need to teach people that, or, create the belief in them that is okay, because they could say, well, forget about this. I like my alcohol, I don't like plants and so on. That is the philosophy. That is the believing system of the person, right? So you would need to really spend some time with that person to help that person to believe that actually it's a good thing to get, one glass and be able to express that control over yourself. It's a good thing, and that delay this gratification and waiting for 2 hours, it's a good thing. So to first, you would need to really change philosophy of that one that is sometimes I tell people to do that thing and they don't like it, right? But I work on them until they would accept the knowledge, that they will accept the plan, the belief. That's why sometimes it's very difficult to help people with weight loss, because when they are 160 pounds and they become 120, the whole philosophy and believing system has to shift and adapt to that 120, because 120 has a completely different mindset. The mindset that likes 120, that likes eating certain way, the amount of weight and the plan with it. But 160 doesn't like it. Yes, so 160 doesn't like 120. So if you lost weight very fast and the mind didn't adapt to it, that the mind is still in 160 lifestyle, and it will take you backward very fast, right? So that's why people on a yo-yo diet constantly, they are unable to control really their body weight, because they don't work on the mind, the philosophy of how we deal with, how we see this, how we believe, how we feel the things, and so on, right? So it's a complex, right? But we should work on it, right? And we should work on ourselves from the perspective of feeling, believing, and from a spiritual perspective and so on, right? Or the science, knowledge, all counts.
Do you think
I have to say about this one drink? When I go for a dinner, I will have a drink and I will order sparkling water. And when I drink, I pour sparkling water to my drink. And I keep drinking, and my alcohol is diluted. I usually have a vodka with, crushed lime squeeze, and that's it. And then I keep drinking, and I keep pouring. In that way, slowly, I'm becoming happy, like you said, kind of like warms me, makes me happy, but not really that I would lose myself in it. So after about, let's say, an hour, I would have, or 20 minutes, I would have empty glass, and the waiter would come and say, "Do you want another one?" I avoid that because my glass is always full. So waiters know me now. So at the beginning they upset about because they want to sell you alcohol, right? But after a while they know you. You give them better tip, and it's working that way. So you have to help yourself with controlling yourself. But when I have to drink, I notice, right? So I'm well okay, but I get a little bit interrupting people. I don't flow. And when I have free drinks, usually I have to apologize next day for what I've said. So right. It is. I think it is very clear that alcohol, in a small quantities, really contributes to the flow, to the easiness, and dropping a little bit this helicopter control of what we are sometimes, and so on. And it helps us to ease and to enjoy our dinner with friends. But,
it's a fine line, though, isn't it? Don't you think, between those two? I guess you've had a lot of experience in that, but I suppose I guess there's times when it's difficult for people to say, well, okay, I want something to take the edge off of life, a glass of wine. I hadn't been drinking for the whole of this year, and then I had we said we wouldn't drink until March, and then in March I had a few glasses of wine. But it was very easy not to do it. But now I've had a glass of wine. It's also very easy at the weekend to say, well, we'll have a glass of wine and make excuses for that. But I was just interested to know because and also the more glasses of wine you have, the less self-control you have. And then it's like, okay, well, we'll finish off the bottle together, for example.
Yeah. And, it's not only that you lose control, but, you stop caring. You don't care. You don't care that you get better. You don't care that your family needs help. You don't care that you need to spend 10, 15 hours, of the really hard labor now to really figure out, where you are and how to adapt yourself to the, challenge that is really presented to you. So, it's we don't care. And that is a horrible thing that, once we get into that, there is no power, there is no energy that could drive us to the work load that needs to be done in order to get better. Sometimes it's just like months and months of hard labor has to be done in order to get better. And if you drink, you can completely miss the idea that you really need to work toward this, and then you can lose the house, right? Or you can lose the family. You can lose those things, and things can get a lot of worse. That's what kind of a negative visualization by Stoics, right? That you can visualize that things can get worse. That they are not really. So you don't have to get into your brain that the things are horrible. The world is ending. The world is not really ending. We will pass this. It's not like. But we can make it worse by our own behavior, by our own way of living. We can make it worse. So why not to make it better? If we have the power to make it worse, we have the power to make it better, right? So if you have the power to achieve happiness in life, you have the power to achieve depression in your life.
Absolutely.
So then the choice is yours, really. And if it's a choice that we really have to develop the ways to help people with this, to make the good choices, the hard choices that contribute to the work that needs to be done, contribute to the practice that needs to be done, to the habits that they are good. And we need help with this because it's a process. And we, like with any process, the daily activity is important. The daily connection with people is important. The daily inspiration, daily motivation. Reading now really good books is a good idea. Watching good movies, is a good idea. The movies, they have strong characters that they are characters like characters that they change, or they are they change the world, like Midway, for example, right? The pilot that is just incredible calmness at the same time, such an adversity, such a horrible, difficult situation that pilot finds himself in. Amazing Grace. You have a lawyer fighting for getting rid of the slavery, and it's you need to watch this movie to see these characters, because you draw good energy from that. These are good people. That the people that IP Man. It's about kung fu, but it's such a wonderful person. You watch and you feel good. You watch and you feel good. To see this person, because we identify with that person. So you can really get better because even watching that person, to go through life with this calmness, this beautiful gracefulness, and also very powerful way of dealing with adversity.
So you talk a lot, really, and it seems a lot in your programs about the mindset. You've got your new book, which has recently come out. What are some of the habits that you've talked about watching movies, positive movies, etc. But what are some of the habits that you can do to help yourself get into the right mindset, whether it's from your drinking, your 120-pound body, or just staying in the present moment and not getting out of that? What are some of those things that you found have been very successful and work on a lot of people that you've worked with?
I think that first you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. Transparency is the most important factor. That transparency of fitness is really needed. And if you don't have transparency, you just have a lot of entertainment. So transparency, when there is transparency, that the numbers, you know the science, you know the goals, you know the standards, and when you know the standards, you can oscillate yourself toward the standard. If you don't know the standard, how you could know where to be, right? So socially, we have a lot of standards, and we learn how to be around the standard. So it's just the same as fitness. So in the Happy Body, there is, for example, ideal body weight. It's a standard, and that standard helps me to control myself, helps me to control, the food, control the exercise, and to do things that I need to do. But the whole exercise system is a mindfulness system, the Happy Body. So it helps people with the breathing pattern within the exercise, help people to calm themselves down. Calming down is the major purpose in the Happy Body. And every exercise has the inhale and then lift. But after inhale is the hold. So it's just the same as the breathing that you would calm yourself down. So inhale, we have the dumbbells, let's say, you stretch, you return, and you exhale. And you do again, inhale, and you do this patterns of the inhale and hold and exhale. And you focus on calming yourself down instead of creating anxiety. 30 minutes like that. After 30 minutes like that, you walk out of the room and you are really kind man. You are a good person. You talk to your family in a good way because your focus was not on exercise and creating anxiety while you exercise, but focus on the breathing and calm yourself down. When you do that, you are more kind than angry person, right? That calmness goes with kindness, and it's really very important. I teach also this breathing patterns everywhere, wherever people are. So even when you talk to people and then somebody can irritate you, you can breathe, and once you breathe, you will find a way how to flow with the person, how not to fight the person. Now the cooking is very important. So in the program, we teach people how to cook very simply and very strategize the cooking, but not really thinking about recipes and not to entangle yourself with the recipes. My mother, taught me how to cook soups, and I teach how to cook soup. I do, my soups are half of the pot are carrots, celery, parsley, and onion, and other half of the pot is my flavor. It can be, broccoli, can be cauliflower, can be asparagus. And then I have half and half. And that is my soup. And I make different soups all the time. I don't need any recipes. I don't need anything. I just make always soups without any. So I teach strategies. So it's very simple and it's not overwhelming. You focus more on meditation, cutting carrots and peeling them. You have this rest from thinking of these recipes.
Mm-hmm. Right? And just coming back to the exercise part again for a moment. So you mentioned that you're doing more conscious breathing as you're lifting the weights. What's the difference between the type of breathing that you're going to naturally do from lifting weights, because when you if you're squatting, for example, anyway, you're going to be out of breath. Is there a difference between the type of breathing you talk about and what would naturally happen through working out?
Well, to create the routine, the exercise routine that would help people to gain muscle, first of all, it has to be interval training system. So in interval strength training, but not really constant. So when you breathe constantly in and out and do certain things for about 10, 15 minutes, it's an endurance system. So to come out of it would be to create lifting and stopping and lifting and stopping. And then when I introduce the breathing to it, like in weightlifting, you go inhale, and then you go and you do the jerk, let's say, but then you drop. So you have to hold the breath for a second or two. So that helped me to create in the Happy Body the breathing patterns that would help to calm ourselves down while we're also building the muscle, because it's really so much needed because we deteriorate when we age. But the breathing pattern, even when you do squats, you do squats, you inhale, you go down, you go up, and then you exhale, and inhale again, and you go. You hold the breath through the process of doing the squat, because if you release the breath before, your chest would collapse, and you cannot collapse, so you have to be on up when you actually release. But every exercise in the Happy Body follows the idea of parasympathetic nervous system instead of sympathetic. It means like more important is calm ourselves down than actually create anxiety with exercise and be hyper.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I guess a lot of popular workouts now are that high intensity, hyper, in terms of the experience. So you're totally the opposite then on that.
Yeah,
front.
I will show you something. Let me see. So let's say I have dumbbells, right? And standing tall is first exercise. So that's how it goes. Inhale, I tighten out the stomach, the glutes, my toes up, so I'm more on heels. And then I do the lifting, and then I do the stretching, then I go down and exhale. So inhale, tight, lift, stretch, down, exhale. Inhale, tight, lift, stretch, down, exhale. You see, in this way, I create the possibility for myself to lift, to be flexible, to get stronger, but also calmer. Also, I'm completely mindful in what I do. I focus. There are six things that I do within every repetition. I will inhale, I will muscle core, and I will the lift, I will the stretch, I will the return, I will the exhale. And this is the mantra that goes through the Happy Body within every exercise, within every repetition. So you can imagine that after 30 minutes of that, you can really calm down. You can be flexible. Flexibility is very interesting because flexibility is something that likes relaxation and doesn't like when you get really tight, right? So it's an interesting factor that goes more with the breathing and calming down than actually with anxiety, right? So there are a lot of things that we do the Happy Body, right? We do the calmness, we do self-control, we do the details, we do the mindfulness, we do the singularity of the brain, and all of it creates the person that for that person is easier to deal with with the life, because you charge this battery, the strength, the strength that you have to control yourself. To when you could be irritated, you are not. So you have this energy. Let's say if you do it like about 5 p.m., let's say you come home and you are tired, you're exhausted after work. So instead of really going and have a glass of wine wine with your wife, you go into the gym and you do your work, yeah, and that recharges your battery, recharges your energy, recharges your self-control. And then you, because of that, you are simply a better person becoming, because you are not prone to be irritated. You are not prone to be retaliate to another person for just simple things. You have calmness, and you have this goodness, and you have a lot of it.
You talk about self-control, and I guess that's important to get you in the gym. It's important for your diet, and I guess it's important to have that mental self-control. How do you train to have more self-control then?
Well, the breathing is the first thing that you do, and then you focus on present moment, right? And you create situations in life that you delay gratification. You practice delay gratification. If you're a person that you have like instant gratification, right? That you have to have things right now. So you start practice. You picked up on those things, then you practice this. So if you recognize your anxieties, you start recognizing your situation when you're very irritated if things don't happen right now, right, for you. So then you work with those things. So let's say you go to a coffee place and you get irritated that people are, 5 people are in front of you, but you want coffee right now. You can be the person like that, yeah? So now what you do, you say, okay, I'm going to work on myself, yeah, to create more self-control. I'm going to sit for 15 minutes up there. I'm going to sit and, just calm myself down. I will start breathing, inhale, hold, exhale. I'm going to be 15 minutes there. And after that, you can decide, and now I will not have coffee. I will walk out. So you train yourself. You help yourself to with delayed gratification, because delayed gratification really help with self-control, right? Those kids in marshmallow studies at Stanford, when they were 4 years old, when they were exposed to delayed gratification and self-control, they lost self-control. Half of them, they lost self-control and they ate the marshmallow within 15 minutes. Others waited. And it's not easy to wait, right? Because some of them, they had to close the eyes and pull the hair and then look somewhere and so on, right? But those who really could wait, right, they expressed this delayed gratification. They had more after because they got another marshmallow, right? And that thing is extremely important in life, because these kids were visited 25 years after, and those that could wait, could delay, those kids were a lot of better than others. They had they usually were married. They didn't have financial problems. They had good environment, friends. They didn't have any problems with law and so on. Other kids, they couldn't wait. They had problems. So delayed gratification is the main thing, really, to train yourself, to help yourself. If you have instant gratification in you, it would be really hard for you to control yourself, to plan anything, because any plan, any strategies, anything that goes with any habits, to form habits, good habits, it will come with certain plans, but it's all in the frontal lobe, and that has to be constantly created, constantly addressed, right? Practiced.
I guess in the world today, and it seems to be ever increasingly about apps and services and that really support instant gratification. Now we're in an instant world where things are just getting quicker and quicker. And do you think that we're actually training ourselves to becoming further and further away from delaying the gratification, and that is something that we really got to work on. Even if it's your phone, there's always it's just instant, fast, speed, quick, want it now. That's the world we live in, and I suppose those are the habits that we kind of get used to, don't we?
I like instant things. It's not like it's more about the attitude to the certain things in life, not really all the things. I really like that I have on iPhone almost everything that I want, and it's instant there. But it's only information that passes from there here, and the world created this faster thing. And plane versus train versus a ship, right? It's shipping us faster, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's just not really instant gratification I'm talking about. I'm talking about instant gratification that we want certain things now, and that contributes to the societal problem for us. That if we want that, and we really express our irritation, and then we express our negativity, that we can create the situation that we are getting worse, and we can have the situation that we can engage with others and say wrong things or do wrong things. And this is where we lose our control, and that's why the training ourselves in doing certain things on daily basis that require this delayed gratification calms us down, and it's not really to get the instant things because they are available. It is about that we get irritated when we don't have certain things, and that probably was always the case, in the world. 2000 years ago, Socrates said, "Live to eat or eat to live." Right? There were people that wanted to live to eat, and then it was already people saw it already at that time, and today we have monks, or we have priests that are obese, and they live to eat instead of eat to live, and they are people that they are spiritual people. They are missing completely the self-control. How you can be a priest and be obese and eat in excess, and you eat 2 or 3 times more than you really need? Well, do you care? Well, how you can put the philosophy here in the right way? I don't get it. How you could be right? How you be that? How you can be a monk and care for the world and create the waste and use more more than you need.
Yeah, I get it, but I suppose when you think about fitness, that's one of the things that most people are not prepared to wait and sacrifice to get to get that kind of life. They don't always want to sacrifice the diet. They want to take something or eat something or drink something that's kind of going to get it there very quickly. And same for your workout. People want that sort of fit in 30 days, and I suppose they expect fitness and well-being to happen quickly. And I suppose your philosophy is the one you talk about. It's almost like changing your lifestyle in terms of how you think, and it's a lot slower, and it's a different approach to it, isn't it, really?
Well, there was this Russian coach who said, "I need 10 years to make a national champion. If I don't have it, I will never create one." So I said the time is needed to the time is needed to do certain results. And if you violate time, you will never have results. So, what kind of results you want, you have to identify the results. But, I will tell you the joke about the time and the results. So there is a father, and he has a son, and brings the son to the master that taught him happiness before. So he comes and says, "Master, could you teach my son happiness? And like you taught me." I say, "Yeah, of course, living here. So you go and have tea and come in and have an hour, and then we'll talk." And so he talks to the son, and then and he said, "Okay, well, if we do this and that and that, in about 10 years, you will know about happiness and how to create that in your life." But the son said, "Well, master, but I am a diligent student. I always do twice as much, the teacher asked me for. So that wouldn't that be 5 years?" And the master said, "Well, in that case, it would be 20 years. Right? So when you want to do something faster that can be done, will be definitely slower. So let's say if you want to progress in a clean and jerk faster, that body can adapt to it. Let's say you lift 200 pounds, but you want 50 pounds, right? You want 250 pounds clean and jerk. And then how the body adapts to the progress, because the body builds the better tendencies, builds the better bones, builds the better muscle, builds the better nervous system. All of it is built during the process of getting to 250 pounds. So the time is needed how the body adapts to it, and the body needs certain repetitions first to accumulate, then adapt to the certain levels and move on. So if you violate that, if you go faster, then the body is behind, right? The adaptation of the body becoming. But you can really push and you can get there faster. You can really work on anxiety, inspiration, and screams in the gym and so on, and you can get there. But once you get there, you will have to collapse because the whole body is behind. So how are you going to collapse? It's usually you will be overtrained, or you will injure yourself. The two things will happen, right? They have to happen. Why? Because the time, the adaptation recovery system is behind. So you drain reserves and you violate the adaptation process to become to 250. Let's say you want 3 months, but it has to be 7 months or 8 months to make it happen the right way. Well, if you don't do it the right way, you will never make it. That's the whole idea of the coach, right? So, think about the Formula One driving. Okay. It's wow, what a skill is that, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about yourself and you would like to go and be the driver, what will happen? If you go and start talking to the drivers, then you will have certain lessons and things to be around drivers like that. It will take 2-3 years before you will even get into the car. So this is the skill of what about like climbing, mountains, and this is when the danger is there, the more clear the time is there, to the time that is needed to make it happen.
So how did you? Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about this guy who climbed El Capitan without the ropes. What was his name? Forgot. But this is the man who decides to climb this El Capitan without the ropes, right? And it's amazing thing, amazing training. Years are passing to make it happen. Mapping the whole wall of the mountain, every piece of it, every inch. So it is, and if you compromise that, if he compromised that because he didn't, he would be down. He would be killed.
Mhm.
He didn't compromise, and the way he talks about it, he was very clear about when he was going to do it, and when they actually when you watch documentary, it's just amazing thing of really a master doing his thing, completely mindful and be with this. It's just like present moment is really present moment. If it's something, if he had the slightest even fear during this climb, you would be killed. You'd be dead.
Mm.
Right.
So what? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So why did you decide to create this happy body, and now the I guess the evolved version of your program? What was your motivation to do that? Was it something you was trying to do it for yourself, or?
Well, I did for myself too. But in the 90s, I started coaching people in 87 in US. And in 90s, I was really doing good job with people. And I look into how I was doing, like into weightlifting. When people wanted more energy, when people wanted to get rid of medications, when people wanted to heal themselves and whatever they wanted, be attractive and so on, I just follow only certain things that I needed to improve, and everything else would happen anyway. So flexibility was the part of it, strength was the part of it, speed, coordination was the part, certain posture, certain body weight, and certain leanness. And if that happened, if I progress with that, everything else, whatever people want, would happen. And when I really understood the process, and I thought, well, would be really good to give people the plan and directions, the strategy, standards first to actually create such a thing on their own, because I coach people. I created this in the gym over and over. So I started really creating this standards, and took about 5-6 years to create standards. The last standard that I create, there are two. They were very difficult because flexibility was not difficult, and posture was not not difficult. Ideal body weight was not difficult, and the leanness, how lean we should be, was this. All the standards were not, but strength was very difficult. I didn't know where it was. And 2002, I competed in the World Championship in Melbourne, and I went to watch weightlifters compete, the old weightlifters, 80 plus. And there was this weightlifter from Australia, Charlie Henderson. He was 80 years old, and then he came to the stage, and he was 130 pounds, something about, and then the weight that was there was also 130 pounds. And then he is 80 years old. I'm just looking at this guy. He's 80 years old, and he is lifting his body weight. You ask today, boys in the gym that ask them to lift their body weight, and tiny percentage of people will be able to do that, right? And he is 80 years old, right? So he does it. And I'm thinking about myself, how we were in Poland, and when I was 14, 15, and then we lifted sometimes the weights, and the best of us would, the weight that equals their body weight. So I thought that should be the standard. And then that was just only how to transfer that standard to the lay people, to the static moves from, like clean and jerk, which is dynamic move, to the static move. And that took transitions, and I came out with the squat press and press squat, and transition all to the strength of the shoulders, strength of the hips, and so on, and then created the standard. And that standard also created another standard of the speed, how fast it should be. And so the whole thing is created, all the standards around. When you take the happy body, and you want to pursue all those standards at the same time. You make yourself better posture. You make yourself leaner. You make yourself, the ideal body weight, and you make yourself stronger and flexible. And go through life with that, and you create more and more. You oscillate yourself around the standards. And so if you do that, and that will that one thing that ensure you the science and the transparency of the thing, and it will set up you on the journey of becoming better. And then when you are becoming better because of it, and also you become more happier, it's easier to be positive and not as negative, you see, because once you get 60 years old or 65, it's really can be hard on a person, because you look at yourself as old, and then and most of the time you are old, and then also you are aged, also you have old clothes, and you talk old, you slow, and so on. All of it is really there, and you just people get rid of you from work, wherever it is. When I got 65, I went to this meeting about retirement, and certain things to buy certain things, whether you're supposed to be supplements, and you didn't know about these things. So I went, and there were people who were 65 years old, and say, my God, Jesus Christ, this 65 years old, they look like 80 or 90. They are with canes and they crutches, and they talk slowly, they have old clothes, and they look old. That's just other things old. So why? This is just only 65. So that should be certain skill of living that would help you not to be that way. This is 65. It's supposed to be now. You work hard. You pass. Now it's the time to have fun in life. You have energy, and you should go to the life and have fun. You're retired. It's time to go. And enjoy life. And to have the thing with life, right? And maybe motorcycles, maybe like planes, flying planes, whatever it is, right? But it's engage in life in a thriving way. You're supposed to thrive now for another 30 years. Yeah, you have second life, like Naval says. You created the second life, our second chance. In life. Yeah, well, that's why we have that happy body. But the happy body is also that when the physical is excellence, and when the physical is great, also it creates the challenge for the body to have self-control, to have delayed gratification, to have patience, to have kindness to the body, and on and on and on. So that obstacles are presented. And then when the obstacles are presented, then we are becoming because of the obstacle. Yeah. So you remember the book "Obstacle is the Way." Yeah, Holiday's book, right? So that's exactly how it is with the happy body. The standards are obstacles, and those obstacles help us to become better people.
What's the part that people generally struggle the most with?
The hardest for people is to know how to exercise, how not to do something incorrectly, and people worry about it all the time. And then the other thing is the food control is one of the hardest things. That's Socrates, right? Eat to live, or live to eat, right away. So he saw that out of control people when it comes to food, and that is the challenge. That challenge, when you talk about this, it's important how you talk about this, because longevity is connected to the calorie restriction. So the longevity is the calorie restriction is number one really factor to live 40 or 50% longer.
Really?
Calorie restriction. Research over and over points to calorie restriction. It means you have to be skinny. You have to be, and there's no way that you would be, overweight and you would survive. No, you don't survive. So, when they did research with the rats and with the monkeys and so on, they live about 40% longer if the food was restricted to them. If they ate just enough, not restricted, because it's a weird word, right? It's a negative word. But it on the happy body, we have just the number, like I have the number, 140 pounds, right? So that helps me to be in this body weight that I'm supposed to be to live longer. Because I could be, if I didn't have that number, right, I could be 170, 180, 190, 200. Why not, right? How I would know? But because I have that standard given me by the happy body, then it helps me to know, to have that number. And then because of I have the number, then I align all the planning and doing things so that number happens to me. So I don't go either direction, right? Because I could be 110 pounds or 200 pounds. So having the number, the standard, helps us to appropriate ourselves around to do what is right and to override our impulses to do something wrong. So that's it. That's a very interesting system with the standard and actually ability to be around to create a standard for yourself. To be around.
So you're now delivering this type of program as a digital program. Is that correct?
About like a month ago, I just thought with this coronavirus, and then I thought that people alone in the houses, and I had always different courses, but I just sensed that I need to talk to people. So I had usually the courses that they were courses like 6-week course and meeting people once a week, and then that was okay, but it gave people a week to think about, to adapt, to learn, to whatever it was. But because of the coronavirus, I thought, well, I need contact with this stranger in the world. I need to talk to the stranger in the world, and that stranger is there. People are buying the Happy Body book. They have, and they want that create that happy body for themselves. But it is for a lot is really hard to do that. Some they create that without any help, but probably 80% of people really need some kind of help. So I started doing this, offering these courses, 1-week course, and meeting every day, and I love it. This is a really amazing thing. I talk every day to the group of people. I have 100 people, and then talk every day. I eat the happy body, all the standards and about it, how to do it, how the transparency works, and how to cook, how to exercise, how to meditate. And the other course I created to help people to actually be able to make it happen. And this is the philosophy behind the happy body, how to create the strength to do what is right, even though you know that something is wrong and you keep doing the wrong thing, and how to build that strength to stop yourself. Because we can monitor ourselves, we can we can see that we are doing something wrong and we're still doing the wrong thing. It's a very sad thing to be in. So we have to create this energy to override that. And then my focus in the last 10 years was on that, how to build that strength, how to build that energy, how to build that grit, right? How to build the willpower, how to build the knowledge, the belief system that would help you to do that, because it really narrows down to really that thing that, where we have weakness when it comes to the override something that we simply don't like, but it's good for us. I created the saying, the wisdom of life is to fall in love with something you don't like, but it's good for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
I know last time we spoke, your vision at the time was you told me a story about driving and seeing someone in a window and being able to touch a lot more people than what you've been able to, because the people that you work with are very much based around the Silicon Valley area, and that was your reach at the time. So have you, in order to scale this, then are you training up other trainers, or is it very much about kind of doing more online, like you're talking about at the moment, and building that side of things?
Yeah, I remember we were talking about. I remember I talked to you that my challenge is to talk to the stranger in the world, right? Yes, yeah. I remember now. Yes, exactly. I really didn't do anything until about 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And 3 weeks ago, really, I stumbled on the idea of talking to the Happy Body people on daily basis and create a course that would be on donation only. So people can join my course when they don't have money and they have financial, distress, or people can come and donate more money than whatever would be for the course. So and in this way, I created my 1 hour office hour that at noon I go and then start engaging with people in the world, the strangers that they are there and they need help, and they come and they love this thing, but they really need help mentoring, like you said before, that the mentoring is crucial. And it's working. I really like it. I don't know how people like it, but it looks like they like it, and it could be that I found a way.
Can you get is the exercise part quite, have you managed to make that part of it work, or is it just more the mindset side of things?
There are two different programs. One is about the physical part, how to cook, how to exercise, every detail of the exercise, the breathing patterns, meditation, and all the calculations, all the standards, one week. The next week is all the philosophy, stoicism, and then believing system, self-gratification, instant gratification, and rebuilding the self-control and the energy to say no to something what is wrong. So there are 2 weeks. So 1 week I go with into the cave, I call it. So in the cave we learn what to do. And we're in the cave, that I came with the idea that if we are in the cave, it's time to really rebuild ourselves. And athletes have this idea. We have this always idea, when you want to get better, you go into the cave. But we're all today in the cave. We found ourselves in the cave. And that is why this is the time to focus on rebuilding yourself, to building yourself, and not really complaining that you found yourself in a weak spot. We are really found ourselves in a weakness. That's correct. I found myself in the weakness too. Everybody. So we are all in it. So how you rebuild yourself, it's at stake now, and we better
it's a what?
It's at stake. How we
stake,
yeah. That is at stake here. So we really need to be serious about that. We really need to really look into it. That at stake it could be our livelihood, and there is no time for whining and complaining and blaming. Now it's now never than before. It is the time to really start really doing what is right, what is good, and to agree that is we need to even do more than before. That's the hardest thing, but that's true too. That whatever was easy for us 2-3 months ago, now it's really hard, and actually we need to do a lot of more for getting a lot of less. But it really doesn't matter. It's just that because it's the progress is important. It's important that your rebuilding system is important, that you are in it.
Yeah, it sounds like a very useful program to be going through at the moment, and as we all sort of search as to what life after Corona is going to be like, that's for sure. So how to put what are the if people want to get on one of these programs then? So just give us a bit of an overview of what I've got. A bunch of books that I'd highly recommend. Like you're certainly a prolific writer. You've got some wonderful books here that I would highly recommend. But do you want to just sort of talk through some of your favorites for people just to start to get into your work and get more involved with Jerzy?
So you're right. So the first is the Happy Body book. We changed this is the new revision, and that's the.
Is that the new version of this one here that I've got?
Right. That one, right. So this book covers logistics. It covers the plan. It covers what to do and how to deal with the standards, how to deal with microprogression, how to deal with flexibility, strength, and rebuilding this. That's the Bible of the Happy Body, right? Then after that, the whole philosophy is how to really create the philosophy of helping people with the believing system, with caring, what we were supposed to be, and how to deal with the hard choices. And then we created a lot of different books. So this one, for example, is the book of mastering, self-mastery workbook, and it has inside very interesting thing. It has one page of monitoring yourself, and the other page is that working with poetry. So we wrote poems, and poems are written because of the difficult situations that people are going through, and how in a poem a person turns into the goodness is always a turn, and leaning toward the goodness, toward the hard choices is always like kind of in a poem and the way. So there's a question and then poetry creates this this place in the mind to accept the hard choices, ability to accept the hard choices. When we have this the gap in our mind, then we can be okay with more work, let's say, or okay with going to bed earlier, right, to sleep. We can be okay with that, but poetry creates that possibility. So that's the juxtaposition of an artist with the scientist that monitor things. It's a quite interesting juxtaposition that is very helpful, and people really like this. They like to interact, between the feelings and numbers. Mm-hmm. So then we have the Book of Virtues here, and
I like that one.
Yeah,
I do that with my children.
This is 1 year study, and every virtue, we work with the virtue for the whole week, and every virtue is here for us to embrace that virtue and to make organic the virtue in us, because we can know hard choices is a life, and we can understand that, right? But we are not that thing. So from a Stoic point of view, is that people know about Stoicism, but they are not Stoics. So we probably know today about in the world that there are a lot of more people that know about Stoicism, but they are really not Stoics. So it is important that what we need to become, we are actually becoming that. So every virtue we have to integrate to our system, and we integrate that. We created this, 7 ways of integration, and every day we write, from the perspective of a different perspective about that virtue. So let's say that the virtue is hard choices, easy life, and then we think about that and we write. We think about that and we write, I understand, and we follow and we answer that question, and then that statement, and then we don't do anything. The next day we write, I think, and it's all about that virtue. And then third day, I feel. The fourth day, I believe. Fifth day, my plan is. And 6, my strategy is. And 7, my experience is. So you embrace and practice every virtue for 7 days, and they have 52 virtues there in the book. So that's
I recommend that one. I got that from you when we last met, and we put them on our refrigerator, and with our family, with my children, we kind of, although it took them a while to sort of get through, and we do a more simplified version of that, but we talk about it and think about it, and it's it's pretty interesting. Nice little simple book.
Right. And then of course the 3 books of dialogues that I written, and these are the mastering, food choices, and mastering exercise choices, and rest choices. So rest choices is very interesting because it's all about the recovery and all about the sleep and all about the regaining this strength of overwriting something what is negative in our life. And when I work with people, I notice that a lot of people are extremely negative. I mean, extremely, and also when they are extremely negative, it's almost impossible for them to do something what is right. It's hard for them to follow any program, to become better, and so on. So this is I was alcoholic, so this is the first stage, and that I'm starting writing this dialogue. So that is the stage when the fatalist owns the decisions. So when the fatalist owns decision, this is the stage when we were talking before, when alcoholic cannot help himself, that he needs somebody to drag him to the Bettyford Center to spend time there, and then to work with people that will create a little bit positive energy inside. So that's the second part. Second of the second voice is the voice that has the master 25%, and then fatally 75%. This is a little bit the person is would be good to drink less, and the fatalist said, forget about it, we drink, we are good, what's the problem with you, right? And so on. So we have this dialogue inside. So the next one is, of course, the dialogue, the debater, that master and fatalist are equally strong. And this is the purpose of this book, to come out of this dialogue and outwit the fatalist. And when we have this situation to have a next drink or not, then we are in debate, and usually the debate is even in how to empower the master that comes out of that dialogue, positively comes out out of the dialogue that makes a decision. So that is the purpose of the book. Of course, the next level is the master is 75%, is the one that does what is right, and sometimes fails and sometimes do something wrong, but corrects himself very fast. And of course, the last is the opposite of the fatalist master. This is the Buddha, this is the Jesus, this is the Mother Teresa, some kind of people that they are extremely Socrates, extremely having self-control, and they simply never lose their grace.
So where are you selling these? Are you selling them on Amazon or on your own website?
It's all on Amazon. On Amazon, right? Yeah,
Amazon.
it's all on the on actually demand. Is amazing thing actually that you could have such a thing that on demand they print. It's just Amazon. Wow, what a system, right? What an amazing thing. The first book that we published, the Happy Body, we had to like print it in China. It was 5,000 books, and you have these books, and you have this thing. Now we don't have anything. It's just everything is in Amazon. It's just amazing. But that's, you see, instant, which is good. We talk about this is the example of the instant, which is really good, which is very helpful, and created really a lot of easier life for people. It's a lot of instant things are really good.
You just got to choose them wisely, which things you want instant and which ones you don't.
Yeah, of course, that choice is always in front of us, right? But that's why I think that mentors are responsible to be always there for people, to always talk, and to have this responsibility for inspiring people, motivating people, exposing them, exposing transparency of things so they are not vague in life. Stop entertaining people and more surrender to the present moment, exposing people to the present moment. What is it? Where is the moment that actually we start bouncing off and started really working to get better from? That's all is important to do. And then that's why people who know better are responsible to talk. They should talk. And then they should always give speeches everywhere, wherever they are. I really love to listen to people of wisdom, because it's feeding. You get better because of those words and how people talk about goodness.
And on that, just before we wrap up, it's an interesting point you make, because I guess. That in terms of speaking and sharing information to people, it's not easy, I suppose, to formulate an idea and to communicate that and to convince people that this is the right way. What's been something that's guided you personally to come up with this idea and to have continue to work hard and to put that message out there? What's been your sort of driving force to do that, Jerzy?
I think the independence was the driving force. That I love independence, I love freedom, and I hate dependency. I just hate that thing, right? It's not the stoic way, but I hate that thing, right? That's just like I get antsy, if there is no progress for better, I just get crazy, So, and dependency, I hate dependency, the communism was such a disgusting system for me, disgusting, it is this dependency, and then lowering yourself to this degrading you to this dependency. So I love the independence. I love independence, and then the whole Happy Body is about independence. Create something that you can take and you can create for yourself, whether you are in this room somewhere, right? When we drove and then from San Francisco, and I saw these hills, but it has to be created the way that a person can take and that person can create this wonderful way of life on his own without any involvement. And that was independent. That was liberation from any kind of ways of to be lost in life and not to know what is right, what is good, and to be corrupted and to be to get yourself into this complaining and whining and blaming. And then that's what the Happy Body delivers, this way for a person to find the power in it, find the master in it, and to know what is right, to know what is good, to have the and to accumulate energy to do what is right, to stop doing what is wrong. That and then create also the physically this beautiful body system that is really good and happy and youthful, but all of it independently. All of it independently, and that's America. That's what that's why I love America. It's just independence. The dependency. If you take freedom away from me a little bit, I don't like it. I like to decide about what I do, and I like America. America is this amazing system. When you want to be independent, when you want to work hard, that's where you find this amazing created system of independence. It's up to you now, right? If you want, I sometimes I watch these movies and documentaries are done about the food and the meat industry and so on. So much complaining, so much blaming. Where is it going? It's nonsense for me. But creating a person that knows how to live life is more interesting, right? That knows what he wants. Then that's it. That's the end of the whole thing. If you know what is right, then you do. And creating people like that is an amazing thing. You're creating a person that knows how to live life. That person know what is good, and that is, and never complain and never blame. You have the drive toward what is good, and then opening that drive is, I think that this is the drive that I always had. That the drive to. And I overlap with Stoicism, because Stoicism has this kind of a way of living life that you always make yourself better, and you never stop until you die. And I that drives me crazy. That I never lose that. I only think about that, and that make yourself better. Keep making yourself better, no matter where you are. It really doesn't
micro progressions.
Yeah, and better, right? Progress, micro progression, but it has to be there, right?
Yeah. So, final question. Last time we were on, I asked you how you'd escaped your limits, and this time I thought I'd sort of continue on that theme, but ask you, Jerzy, what does escaping your limits mean to you?
It means making hard choices, really, because if you make the hard choice, then you escape your limit. You build micro progression, you build something a little bit more in the present moment, and you escape your limit. It means you become more than ever. You become more knowledgeable than ever. You become stronger than ever. You become more flexible than ever. You become smarter than ever. You become skillful more than ever. That's what it means. It's something that you've never. You are in unknown. If you escape your limit, you are in unknown. You've never been there before, and that you can only do with the making hard choices, because you have to make an effort to actually make it happen.
Yeah, and I think that's very relevant as sort of to come full circle from where we started. Really, I suppose a lot of people are all feeling being into that position of being unknown, in unknown territory, a high level of uncertainty. But I suppose, your philosophy is very much like, that's where you want to be, embrace that unknown. And I guess if we can create a sense of security being in there, then it's probably going to make our lives a bit better, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's not really unknown in a big way. It's unknown really in a very small way, because it's a micro progressive system, because you instantly really know what the unknown is, right? So if you let's say, if you help educate a child, and the child knows that 2 + 2 is 4, but doesn't know that 2 + 3 is 5. That's what I'm talking about, microprogression and unknown. So that we work to help the child to know what is 2 + 3. And after a day or two, the child says 5. And now we have the 5. And now we go to another number. And, years are passing. And then we have calculus. We have architecture. If we didn't have this microprogressive system, if we didn't have this, escaping our limit on a daily basis, right, we would never create that person.
I like it.
Right?
Very good. Fantastic. Well, Jerzy, that was a very interesting conversation. You always kind of take me off guard and take me down a road.
Somewhere there. You took me.
But thank you so much. And I'm once this is over, I'm definitely going to be coming over to see you and you and your wife get some of that cooking, because that's the bit I was kind of looking forward to from the interview. The conversation and then the dinner.
Well, we'll make pierogies and we'll have one drink.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerzy. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.